The tea in my cup had gone cold. I didn't even remember making it. I was just sitting there, at the small kitchen table staring at the family photo on the wall. We were all smiling in that picture. Me, Daniel, his parents. But I remember that day. I remember how my cheeks ached from forcing that smile. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old and I live in a quiet little town in Ohio. People here know each other's names, wave when they pass by, and gossip travels faster than the wind. From the outside, my life looks perfect. A loving husband, a cozy home, stable jobs. And in every photograph, we look like the kind of family you'd want to be part of. But pictures lie. And mine have been lying for years. When I married Daniel, I thought I could win over his parents with kindness, patience, and time. And for a while I told myself it was working. I nodded through their small jabs. Your cooking is different, or we're not used to this way of doing things. I smiled when they compared me to his ex-girlfriend. She was always so polite, so familiar. I convinced myself it wasn't personal. For years I carried this quiet hurt, telling myself it didn't matter. That love for Daniel was enough to make up for the coldness from his parents. But last Sunday, something changed. It was one of those family dinners where everyone talks over each other, passing dishes and telling the same stories we've all heard 100 times. I was clearing the table when I heard my mother-in-law's voice from the kitchen. I don't think she knew I was standing so close. And what she said cut deeper than anything before. I froze, holding a stack of plates, my heart thudding in my chest. The sound of laughter filled the room, but in my ears, there was only silence after her words. And in that silence, something inside me shifted, like a door finally slamming shut. I walked back to the table, still smiling, still pretending. But in that moment I knew the truth. I wasn't going to forgive them. Not this time. Last Sunday I heard his mother say something, and now I don't think I can ever forgive them. From the outside my days look ordinary, even beautiful. Daniel wakes up before me, makes coffee and leaves it on my nightstand before heading to work. Sometimes when I walk into the kitchen I see little notes in his handwriting. Have a good day, Em, or don't forget your scarf, it's cold. We go grocery shopping together on Saturdays. We have dinner at the same table every night. We watch the same shows before bed. It's the kind of life people dream about. And yet sometimes I feel like I'm living inside a perfectly decorated cage. The walls are painted warm colors. The curtains let in just enough sunlight. The fridge is always stocked. But the air feels heavy when I know we have to see his parents. Family dinners happen at least twice a month. Every time I tell myself it will be fine. Every time I dress nicely, bring a dessert, and remind myself to stay polite no matter what. Daniel notices my nerves. He squeezes my hand and whispers, "They love you in their own way." I smile at him, but inside I'm thinking, do they? Or do they just love that I don't fight back? His parents are careful with their words, careful enough that outsiders would never notice. It's in the tone, the pauses, the way his mother's eyes scan my clothes before greeting me. It's in the way his father starts sentences with, "In our family we," as if to remind me I wasn't born into it. I've become good at playing along. I laugh when I should, nod when they talk about traditions I don't understand. I compliment his mother's cooking even when she forgets I'm vegetarian and puts meat in the dish. Daniel tells me it's just a misunderstanding. I tell him I believe him. But last week during dinner his father mentioned their plans for our future. I was setting my fork down when he said it casually, like it was already decided. "You know, Emily, once you two move closer to us, it'll be easier for you to quit your job and focus on family." I felt my face warm, my chest tighten. Quit my job? Move closer to them? Daniel didn't react. He just kept eating like he'd heard it before. I smiled, nodded, and changed the subject, but inside something was unraveling. After dinner, Daniel kissed my forehead while we were saying goodbye to his parents. He helped carry the leftovers to the car. When we got home he went to shower, leaving his jacket on the chair. That's when I noticed something sticking out of the inside pocket. A folded piece of paper, slightly worn at the edges. I don't know why I pulled it out. Maybe because I already had a feeling. When I opened it I realized it wasn't new. It was a letter. And before I even finished reading the first few lines, My hands started shaking. It was from his mother. And it confirmed what I'd been trying not to believe for years. He kissed my forehead after dinner, but in his jacket pocket, I found the letter that broke my trust. The paper trembled in my hands. Daniel's mother's handwriting was small and neat, like every word was carefully planned. I read it slowly, afraid that if I went too fast I might miss something. It wasn't long, just a few sentences. But every one of them felt like a quiet stab. I'm still not sure she's the right fit for you. I know you love her, but love isn't always enough. She doesn't understand our family ways, and I don't think she ever will. I just hope you'll realize it before it's too late. It was dated months before our wedding. And yet Daniel had kept it all these years. I folded it back carefully, almost afraid to rip it, and put it on the table. I sat there in silence, staring at it. 1,000 memories came rushing in, memories I'd buried so deep I thought they were gone. The first time I met his parents was 3 months into dating Daniel. I remember how nervous I was, standing in front of the mirror, changing my outfit 3 times, practicing polite greetings under my breath. When they opened the door, his mother's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. His father shook my hand firmly, but the first thing he asked was, "Where's your family from?" I told him, "A small town 2 hours away." He nodded slowly, like that told him everything he needed to know. At dinner, his mother asked questions that sounded like conversation but felt like an interview. About my job, my education, my parents. Every time I answered, I felt her measuring my words, weighing me against some invisible standard. Daniel held my hand under the table. That night, I told him I thought they didn't like me. He laughed softly and said, "They just need time. They're old-fashioned." The months leading to our wedding were harder than I expected. There were arguments about the guest list, about where the ceremony should be, about traditions. His parents wanted it in their church with their pastor, their way. I wanted something smaller, more personal. In the end, I gave in to most of their wishes, telling myself it was just one day, that what mattered was the marriage, not the wedding. But on the day itself, I could feel the distance. They smiled in the photos, but there was no warmth in their hugs. When Daniel danced with his mother, I overheard her telling him how proud she was of him. Not of us. Just him. The I thought marriage would fix things. I thought if they saw me caring for their son, making him happy, they'd accept me. And maybe in small moments they did. But it was never without that thin layer of judgment, that reminder that I wasn't one of them. I realize now. I rushed into marriage partly because I didn't want to face the truth. Before Daniel, I had been through a painful breakup, one that left me feeling unwanted, like I'd never find someone who would choose me fully. When Daniel came into my life, steady and kind, I grabbed onto him like a lifeline. He made me feel safe. And I thought, maybe if I built a new life fast enough, I wouldn't have to think about the old one. But ghosts don't disappear just because you stop looking at them. They follow you. And the letter in my hands was proof that mine had never left. I put the letter back in his jacket pocket before Daniel came out of the shower. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't say anything the next day either. But the words kept echoing in my mind. She doesn't understand our family ways, and I don't think she ever will. They were right about one thing. I didn't understand their ways. Because to me, love meant acceptance. And theirs felt like a constant test I could never pass. I buried the past. Until it texted me again after 4 years of silence. 4 days after finding that letter, I carried it in my mind like a secret stone in my pocket. It was heavy, sharp at the edges, impossible to forget. But I didn't tell Daniel. I told myself I needed time, that maybe if I waited long enough the sting would fade. Yet it grew. I kept moving through my days, smiling when I needed to, nodding when people spoke, laughing at jokes I didn't hear. Daniel would kiss my cheek in the morning and ask, "You okay?" I'd answer, "I'm fine." It was a lie. But it was easier than starting a conversation I didn't know how to finish. We had another dinner with his parents the following weekend. I put on my nicest dress, fixed my hair, and practiced my smile in the mirror. On the drive there, Daniel was talking about a project at work, but I could barely focus. My stomach felt like it was tied in knots. When we arrived, his mother greeted us warmly in front of the neighbors, giving me a hug that lasted just long enough for them to see. Inside, the familiar comments began, little remarks disguised as casual conversation. About how Daniel always liked certain dishes before I came along. About how busy I seemed for someone with no children yet. I laughed them off the way I always did. But my friend Sarah's voice kept echoing in my head. She had noticed the change in me weeks ago. We'd met for lunch one afternoon and she had looked at me across the table and said quietly, "You look like someone carrying a hurt you're too scared to put down." I remember staring at my coffee, unable to answer. That night after dessert, I went into the kitchen to help with the dishes. That's when I heard it. His parents were in the living room, their voices low but not low enough. "He's different now," his mother said. "She's taken him away from us." His father replied, "She doesn't understand our family values. I told you from the start." My hands were shaking as I rinsed the plates. They had no idea I could hear them. And I realized, it wasn't just the letter. It was every comment, every cold look, every moment they made me feel like an outsider. It had all been leading here. I told Daniel I wasn't feeling well and we left early. The drive home was silent. When we walked inside, he reached for my hand, but I pulled away gently and went straight to the bedroom. Later that night he came in and sat beside me on the bed. "And what's going on? You've been somewhere else lately." I wanted to tell him everything right then. I wanted to hand him all the hurt I'd been holding. But the words wouldn't come out. Instead, I just shook my head. "I'm fine," I whispered again. Daniel sighed, rubbed the back of his neck. "I feel like you're here but not really here. And I don't know how to fix it if you don't tell me what's wrong." I turned away, tears slipping down my cheeks in the dark. Because the truth was, I didn't know if he could fix it. I didn't even know if I wanted him to try. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen making coffee, staring out the window at the quiet street. For years, I had told myself that keeping the peace was worth the silence. That pretending was safer than the truth. But I finally understood something. Pretending doesn't heal you. It just delays the breaking point. And mine was coming fast. She said I looked like someone carrying a love that wasn't mine. That's when I stopped pretending. It happened on a Tuesday night. We had just finished dinner and Daniel was washing the dishes while I dried them. The clink of plates and running water filled the silence between us. I could feel the words pressing against my chest, the way you feel a storm building in the air. I set the towel down and said softly, "Daniel, we need to talk." He turned off the water, wiped his hands and leaned against the counter. His eyes were tired. "Hey, talk to me." I took a deep breath. "I found something in your jacket last week." He didn't move. "What was it?" "A letter. From your mother." My voice shook. It was dated before our wedding. She said I wasn't the right fit for you, that I'd never understand your family. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. I kept going, my words spilling faster now. "I've tried for years, Daniel. I've smiled, I've cooked for them, I've agreed to things I didn't want. And still it's never been enough. I hear the things they say when they think I'm not listening. And I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath for years. "Emily, I already knew about the letter." My stomach dropped. "You knew?" He nodded, looking down at the floor. I didn't tell you because I thought it would just make things worse. I thought, maybe they'd change if I gave it time. And did they? I asked. He hesitated. No. But I hoped. I felt a sharp ache in my chest, not just from what his parents had done, but from knowing he had carried this with me in silence, letting me believe it was my fight alone. Do you know what it feels like, I said quietly, to walk into a room and know you're not wanted? To be smiled at in public and picked apart in private? I've lived with that for years, Daniel. And you let me. He stepped closer, his voice low. I let you because I thought protecting you from their words was better than letting you hear them. I didn't want you to hurt. I shook my head. But I did hurt. Every day. And now I can't forgive them. I don't even know if I can forgive you. The room felt heavy. He didn't argue. He didn't defend them. Instead, he just looked at me with this quiet sorrow, like he knew something was ending. So, what now? He asked. I swallowed hard. I think I need space. I can't keep living like this, Daniel. He nodded slowly, his eyes shining but no tears falling. We stood there for a long time, both of us knowing the choice had already been made. When I finally picked up my bag and walked toward the door, he didn't stop me. But as I closed it behind me, I heard his voice, soft, almost breaking. Thank you for not lying one last time. I left. And as I closed the door, he said, thank you for not lying one last time. It has been 6 weeks since I left. The first few days felt unreal, almost like I was walking through someone else's life. The apartment I moved into was quiet, too quiet. There was no sound of Daniel's keys turning in the lock, no gentle footsteps coming down the hall, no soft hey-em as he walked into the room. I had traded one kind of silence for another. I started building small routines to fill the emptiness. Each morning I would walk to the coffee shop on the corner, wrap my hands around a warm cup and watch the town wake up. I cooked simple meals for one, nothing fancy, but the act of preparing food for myself felt grounding. I began writing in a journal, sometimes whole pages, sometimes just a sentence. Some days the loneliness sat heavy on my chest, but it was a different kind of heavy than before. It was the weight of something I had chosen to let go of, not something being forced on me. I still think about Daniel, not constantly and not with the same sharp ache I felt in the beginning, but in quiet moments. When I pass the grocery store where we used to shop. When I hear a song he loved. When I see a couple laughing together in the park. I wonder if he's okay. I wonder if he misses me. But I haven't spoken to his parents. There's nothing left to say. Forgiveness is not a gift I can give them yet, and maybe I never will. One cold Friday morning I opened my door and found a small box sitting outside. There was no name, no return address. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a recipe card. The recipe was for apple pie, written in his mother's neat, careful handwriting. On the back, in smaller letters, she had written, "Maybe one day you can teach me how to make it like you." I sat on the floor holding that card, unsure of what I was supposed to feel. Was it an apology? A peace offering? A polite attempt to clear her conscience? I didn't have the answer. And for the first time I realized I didn't need one. Forgiveness, I've learned, is not a light switch you can flip on. It's a slow, uneven journey. Some days you take a step forward. Some days you stand still. And some days you even step back. I don't know if I will ever forgive them. But I am learning to forgive myself. For staying too long, for pretending I wasn't hurt, for believing I had to earn love that should have been given freely. Life is quieter now, but it is mine. And for today that is enough. If you've ever carried a hurt too heavy to let go, I understand. Tell me your story in the comments.